We're here to talk about defining the most important barrier to your brand in the Brand Doctor podcast with Rich Kozak. Check out these rich strategy nuggets that you can use right now. This is the Brand Doctor podcast with Rich Kozak. Here we positively uplift possibilities for your brand with straight talk you can trust. Does your brand need more clarity? Or maybe you feel stuck at the starting gate to the next level of your brand? Bring your vision and your challenges right here to the Brand Doctor podcast. Today, we are lifting up the brand journey of DK Warinner, founder of the Center of Calmness, your personal power to think, grow, and lead. He's the creator of the DK method for stress and anxiety elimination, and author, no surprise, of Anxiety, Stress, and Overwhelm are now optional. DK speaks to business audiences, personal and career development groups, and get this, he's a success coach to executive teams. So he's not only about eliminating stress and anxiety, he's about taking people to higher levels of success. So DK, that's a nice sunset in Texas. I know that many of our listeners, businesses, and lives will benefit from what they hear today on this show. So welcome, my friend. Great to have you here.
Thanks. Thank you, Rich. Really appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity.
Absolutely. So, DK, you are a driven high achiever who helps others be high achievers. Engineering degree, an MBA, continuous personal development, climbing the ladder of corporate achievement. And now you've founded a new brand called the Center of Calmness. What moved you to create this brand when you are a part of corporate America?
Well, thanks for that question, Rich. That's a critical element of why I chose to create the Center of Calmness and actually begin teaching the DK method. If I could take us back to a moment in my career when I was freshly moved to a new corporate situation, a new plant, where I found myself immediately in an adversarial relationship with the team there. I was the new guy from corporate, if you will, right? They've been there for 20, 30 years, and instant credibility problems. Couple of gaffes put me on the wrong side of the street with most of them, and I spent 2 years there basically going through hell, and both internally and externally, definitely under threat of being fired, from my perception. And that was when I really saw a career that I had very carefully built and maintained and developed suddenly was hanging by a thread. Suddenly I felt it was in a down spiral.
Wow.
And it was that story and the success that came from my ability to turn that around that really got me into the mode of developing the DK method and the interest in carrying it back to that corporate environment where I found myself in need of it.
Well, I'm captivated by its title, the DK method for stress and anxiety elimination. So I'm not going to question it. It says elimination. So as a coach and trainer and a speaker, what have you learned that convinced you to make the DK method for stress and anxiety elimination available to people worldwide, which is what you're doing now?
Really, Rich, to answer that question, I would take us back to a particular morning. And this was sometime after my situation with the corporate environment that I mentioned. But I began working on eliminating my own anxiety and stress that I had perceived was the core and the root of my issues in that environment. And I reached a point when one day I woke up after doing a bunch of work and a lot of development and refinement of my process.
Yeah.
And I woke up and I had what I call a green day. A lot of folks that suffer heavy and particularly chronic stress and anxiety will wake up and they'll be already under stress as soon as they rise from bed, right? Already in a yellow or red state. On this particular day that I'm speaking of, I woke up and I was totally neutral green, no stress, no anxiety. And when I reached that point and I realized that stress could actually not only be controlled or managed, but could actually be eliminated, and I had actually successfully done this for myself, that's when I knew I had something. And once I had it, and once I had a chance to share it with a few others, I realized that this was a gift that I can't keep to myself.
Wow. So when you share it with people, and I know you do, what do you hear from them? Are they giving you the high sign, or this is sometime at work or sometime, you're like, what do people say about this when they've experienced it?
Invariably, they all come back and say that they've experienced a fundamental shift in how they feel, which is the most important because we're going right to the root of where anxiety and stress are even developed. I could share a couple of examples if you
I
wish.
want to hear their voices if you got them. I mean, if you've got them in writing, just read them. If do you have any, you know, testimonials or, where people say like, look, this stuff really works.
Absolutely, I can share a couple with you right now.
Do it.
I
Let's
can
do it.
share what, particularly what comes to mind now is what Steph, who's a singer, songwriter, and music producer,
Okay.
had said after she went through the method. And what she said was, DK helped me to de stress and to prepare myself for success. I, meaning she, use the DK method for stress and anxiety elimination before I go on stage and in my daily life. And she said the DK method takes my stress from a 10 to a 1 in under a minute. And that was
Well,
the basis of her recommendation. Yeah.
all
So
right. That's a
to-
goodie.
totally awesome result. I'll share one more
Okay.
because maybe you might just say this is maybe only for performers. But I also share a story that I heard back from Dwayne, who's an investment strategist. And what he said is when I focused on the steps DK shared of the DK method for stress and anxiety elimination, I was able to take my energy from an 8 or 9 on an anxiety scale to a 1 or 2. And he also said, I feel like I've gone from red orange to blue.
I get it. All right, DK, what is your vision? Let's get to the vision part because that's the basis of an impact driven brand. What is your vision of the impact you clearly see having on these individuals and families' lives when your brand is accepted and sharing the DK method for stress and anxiety elimination?
Well, I'd like to share that first in context of something actually, Rich, that you shared with me at the beginning of our journey together.
Hmm.
And what you shared was, as I shared my story of my brand and what I envisioned it to be, something dropped out, and you shared this simple title. It doesn't have to be that way, right? And so, as folks face the
I
anxiety and
remember that. Okay.
yeah, and as folks face whatever they face in their life that seems to be generating anxiety and stress, it doesn't have to be that way. Right. And that was
Excellent.
so powerful what you shared. And really that became a major motivator and it's an inspiring moment for me to move forward on this. And so as the vision crystallized, it became much broader and more expanded into this. People worldwide use the DK method. I'm speaking in future tense now.
Yeah.
People worldwide use the DK method to naturally turn their stress energy into calm energy for success.
Oh, that's marvelous, DK. All right. You're a man of vision. Obviously, you have a gift and you're ready to share with people. Thank you. What a blessing. Let's talk about branding. What is challenging you when you think about branding the Center of Calmness?
Well, what's interesting to me is that as I investigate and look at the stress management industry, the health and wellness industry, there are so many seemingly potential solutions out there that the market appears to be saturated, even though each solution is a little bit different. And so my challenge is how do I get my message out in a way that stands out from the crowd and really showcases the difference and really the uniqueness of what I offer in the context of the sea of other options that appear to be out there. Some potentially work, some potentially don't, right? And my method is proven and successful. And so
Mm,
the challenge I have is how do I translate what's in here that I know works, that I've used myself as well as with my clients, and get it out there in a way that folks can understand.
got it. You got to overcome that ocean of messages that are out there. So, may I tell you a story?
Absolutely.
I have a client named Patty, and her expertise. She runs a pretty big, a pretty big firm that years ago you might call a bookkeeping firm, but it's way beyond that. Her expertise these days is because she's got decades of experience simplifying the critical tech and accounting decisions for your business to reach millions. Wait a minute. How's you booking for? No, no, no. There's a tech stack these days, and it's different in different industries. The what's at the hub and what's attached to it, and she simplifies that critical tech and accounting stack right at the beginning prepare people to grow quickly. So she does a lot of virtual events. And so somebody says to somebody else, oh man, I use Patty's firm because they simplify the critical tech and accounting decisions required for your business to reach millions. What? Really? And then another one says, yeah, she simplifies that tech stack and it allows your business to grow. It's like, really? You don't have to hear that too many times until she kind of stands out and she's no longer what people might have thought she was. So here's the strategy nugget, for DK and for every listener here. Testimonials like the ones DK read, use testimonials as a strategy to overcome the barriers of doubt and skepticism that are out there. And I'm going to talk about that right now. Use existing testimonials and, do this, write this down. Write your existing testimonials and have them in front of you. And then excerpt them. In other words, pull the words out of them that are brief and to the point, no fluff. They got to be real. And they give the brand credit in the voice of the person who's experienced the brand. DK could have said how great this is all the way along, but he read the voice of people who have experienced it and know it works. From a 10 to a 1, from a 9 to a 2, it's like in seconds, in a minute, it's like, that's way different than somebody with an anxiety. And there are 40 million people diagnosed with anxiety conditions in the United States alone. It's like, that's a lot of people. And for them to hear this, it's going to be a blessing. Some of you, that might be you. So you already wrote down the testimonies you have. Now I want you to pre-write testimonials in the language of your brand that gives you credit, as if you could just snap your fingers and, somebody's just going to walk right into this testimonial tomorrow and say this. Write it down, because they will. We do that regularly, and it is a phenomenal strategy. There's nothing fake about it. This is what I heard you say. Would you use this word? Oh, sure. And you write what you really know they will say and get it the way you know it will be really powerful for you. And they will step into it. All right, DK, we talked about barrier a second ago. What do you see as the number one barrier to acceptance of the Center of Calmness, and especially of the DK method for stress and anxiety elimination?
Well, I'd say, Rich, the barriers are the same barriers as those who suffer high chronic stress or chronic anxiety. All of them carry this. And that is a very unusually healthy sense of doubt, right? Doubt that they can really turn it around. Doubt in, is it always going to be this way, right? And when I present a method, or even before I get to the method, when I present that there's another opportunity, right? Another option, but besides just carrying that stress, immediately that fires the skepticism, right? Where they go, can this really help me? And can it really help me personally, me and my story and my situation?
Got it. Yeah. What DK just said to me was that he sees that number one barrier is doubt. I heard self-doubt, but also maybe doubt that it'll work for them. Doubt they can get rid of overcome their issue, their problem, their anxiety, their condition. And then even if it works for somebody else, like, I doubt it'll work for me. So there's like that doubt. And then there's skepticism. So like, I don't know, this DK, I never heard of this, skepticism. So there's this combination. So may I tell you a story?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I have a client named Judy. We created a brand with Judy called Money, Truth, and Life. It is a brand that offers wisdom that makes families abundant over multiple generations. It is not a money brand. It's about money, truth, and life. And it's not about the money, it's about the life. So she has a book, Money, Truth, and Life. And we published the book on my impact-driven publishing company. And we were doing cover design.
And you have to ask yourself, what's the number one barrier? People might not even pick it up, or pick it up and then put it right back down. And it was, oh, really? Another book about money? I didn't read the last 5 books I bought about money, and this will not change my life. That barrier, and if we didn't overcome that barrier, they would never benefit by the book. They would never make their way to the online mastery program where they can share it with their family 24/7 and generations. It's like, it just wouldn't happen. They would lose, their lives would lose, we would lose the brand, if you will. Sorry, not me, but the brand. It's like everybody loses if you don't overcome the barrier. So on this beautiful green book cover, Money, Truth, and Life, that had roots going down into the word wisdom in the subtitle, it was a marvelous logo extension for the book cover. We created an invader that was a red stripe across the top of the book that said, learn what the world is not telling you about your money. That broke the barrier. So it's like, wait a minute, maybe there's something in here that I don't know. And then they flip it and they read the testimonials on the back that directly attack their brain. When we wrote the creative beef for the book title, number 1 was overcome the barrier and make sure it was clear how Money, Truth, and Life will change their life, will make a difference. And so these people saying, this will change your financial life forever. This is the best gift you can give any graduate. It's like, wait a minute. This must be something different, specifically to overcome the barrier. So here's the strategy nugget for you and your brand, DK, and yours too. Make sure you overcome make sure that I'm going to give it very specifically. Make sure your number 1 message, that's the number 1 message in your message hierarchy. And we'll talk about that in another one of Brand Doctors. Make sure your number 1 message overcomes the number 1 barrier. And that means you have to clearly define it. So here's your action item. Write this down. Take the time to think through your target audience's mindset and what they care about, those things that are going on in their head regularly, and repeat about what the work that your brand does that are relevant to your work. And in DK's case, anxiety and stress and how they affect their professional and private lives. But for whatever your brand is, when you're listening today, think about what's in the mind of your target audience and clearly define that number 1 barrier that if you don't overcome it, you lose, they lose, everybody loses. Now, I'll mention there might be a secondary barrier. We talked just here about doubt and skepticism. So we didn't go into fine points, but there can be. So here's how that works out. Let's take DK's example. This is fun. Okay, DK. So our message objective in creating the number 1 message that overcomes the barrier of the doubt and self-doubt, self-doubt, skepticism, whether it'll really work, is to trigger your target audience member to change their thought of, I don't think this can work. I doubt that, into, I think this might help me overcome my condition. If we can get that shift, and this mindset shift becomes the first step in trust, which for your brand is absolutely critical. So in headline format, a headline for that might be like, anxiety, are you getting the help you need? Wait a minute, that implies that there is help, but of course they already tried a bunch of stuff. So, but that would be like an ad headline, but we're not talking about an ad headline. We're talking about a message. Messages have to be stated with gravitas, knowingly, that you know. And so the message might be something like, it's time you overcame anxiety without the struggle. Well, you know something I don't know? There's what we'd call an intangible brand promise there that I have some knowledge that maybe you can benefit from. And frankly, I know what you've been going through, and it's time that you overcame anxiety without your struggle. And they're like, well, who are you? And I want that one. What's in there? Love it when that happens. Okay, this episode of The Brand Doctor, we've lifted up the brand journey of DK Warinner, founder of the Center of Calmness, Your Personal Power to Think, Grow, and Lead. DK is the author of Anxiety, Stress, and Overwhelm are now optional. He speaks to business audience, personal and career development groups, and he's a success coach to executive teams. You got to get DK in to talk to your people. What a blessing. Or just talk to you, for crying out loud. He'll get on a Zoom call. And you gained insight into a couple of things using testimonials to overcome the ocean of information and messages in your industry that prevent you from standing out. And you got insight on defining and overcome the number one barrier using your number one brand message in your message hierarchy that speaks with gravitas, knowingly, and magnetically. You'll get contact for our guest today in the show notes so you can take advantage of all his brand has to offer, and even more information just by sending us an email to rich@richbrands.org. I want you to remember the Brand Doctor is dedicated to bring you strategies and actions to take your brand to its next level. So from our heart to yours, we encourage you to subscribe to the Brand Doctor podcast and to check out other episodes for strategy and nuggets and action that you can take right now. We'll speak to you again in our next episode. And remember, now is the time to define the brand you will become. Thanks for joining us.